lot of money, they had a lot of fame.
I got all the money I need. I'm a gangster, woman. I take money.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at some of the more colorful things said by late cult leader Charles Manson.
We're all our own prisons. We each are our own wardens, and we do our own times.
Manson claims he's the Pope. Author and former news anchor Penny Daniels interviewed Charles Manson in 1989. A disgruntled Manson arrived, frustrated that the interviewer wasn't who he was expecting.
My name is Penny Daniels. I'm from Inside Story in Miami. You were dealing...
This is Miami. They said this was France. Didn't you say this was France?
That's what they said over there, but that information must have been wrong, Charlie.
Honestly, Daniels should be commended for her poise and calm when faced with Manson's constant standoffish nature. Daniels eventually asked Manson what he had to do with God, something that came up frequently during the trial and beyond. Manson replied that he was somehow sent by the divine to spread the word, and went on to imply that he transcends the room, among other things.
I'm the Pope. I'm 10 times the Pope. I'm 50 times the Pope. But I'm the Pope in the hills and in the mountains. I'm already out of here. This enclosure here, I'm out of here. My body's stuck here, but my thought is already gone.
Manson is a reflection of our society. Manson was not a man of few words, and recurring themes can be found throughout his rantings. One such theme was that Manson saw himself as somehow divinely outside of everything, as well as a perceived product of our society's disillusionment.
You people have done everything in the world to me. Doesn't that give me equal right? I can do anything I want to you people at any time I want to, because that's what you've done to me.
Following his 1971 conviction for the Tate LaBianca murders, Manson addressed how society perceived him and how wrong it was. Mr. and Mrs. America, you are wrong. I am not the king of the Jews, nor am I a hippie cult leader. I am what you have made of me, and the mad dog, devil killer, fiend leper is a reflection of your society. Manson had a way of diverting the blame to anyone but himself, from his family members to, well, everyone else.
I take offense to the fact that 25 years later Manson doesn't own up to his share in this. I take offense to that.
Manson on judging us. Manson's 1970 testimony is a rambling mess in some instances, but there are some standout moments. Many of Manson's speeches refer to judgment, both his own and that of others.
I don't justify or not justify. I lay it out there. What people do with it's their business.
Though he considered himself a messianic figure of sorts, Manson also frequently reminded his audiences that he could not judge them. I can't judge any of you. I have no malice against you and no ribbons for you. But I think that it is high time that you all start looking at yourselves and judging the lie that you live in. It's a little contradictory that Manson called himself, quote, Jesus and the devil, yet also claimed he couldn't judge us.
I was convicted for being Jesus Christ and the devil. Now, if that makes any sense to your reality, public, you know, there's something missing in your work.
Prison is in your mind. According to Manson, he was never really imprisoned. In fact, prison was a manifestation of the mind. During his 1970 testimony, Manson said, quote, we are all our own prisons. We are each all our own wardens, and we do our own time. Prison in your mind. Can't you see I'm free? Call him anything you want, but Manson's words are thought-provoking.
Well, what crowd, what crowd you playing for? Huh? I'm playing for my life. You working for money.
What does that mean, you're playing for your life?
I'm working for my life, mister. I'm not playing for money.
Whether we like it or not, we are all trapped within ourselves. However, there are still physical prisons for those whose crimes transcend their inner thoughts. In 1967, when released after a 10-year stint for forgery, Manson begged the guards to let him stay.
Written accounts indicate that you told the authorities, don't let me out. I can't cope with the outside world. Do you have a recollection of that?
You make a desperate plea out of something, man. There's no desperate plea out of it. I say I can't handle the maniacs outside. Let me back in.
In his 1970 testimony, Manson said, quote, my father is the jailhouse. Devils and demons. Charles Manson was up for parole a number of times between 1970 and 2017, but was rejected each time. In 1986, Manson sat before the parole board and attempted to read a rambling 20-page statement.
I'm not beaten. My holy revolution against pollution is still in swing. I am my own government. Even if Reagan is trying to ride my horse.
He was cut off after 15 minutes. his speech being referred to as frequently, quote, unintelligible, with quotes such as, quote, "From the world of darkness, I did loose demons and devils in the power of scorpions to torment. I could have a parole and have no soul. I will keep my soul and have no parole." What this means is open to interpretation.
There was an audible gasp in the press section because Charlie is showing his 51 years. He looks older. But I think we also have come to see how powerful this man really was.
Perhaps it's a reference to his word being spread despite his imprisonment? Despite the cryptic nature of the words, they do seem to reassess Manson's comfort with the imprisoned life. One of the most dangerous men in the world. During a 1970 interview with Rolling Stone magazine, Manson said, quote, "I'm probably one of the most dangerous men in the world if I want to be, but I never wanted to be anything but me." Manson appeared to frequently refer to his potential for something bigger, yet also a reluctance to release said potential due to its impact on society.
If you spit in my face and smack me in the mouth and throw me in solitary confinement for nothing, what do you think's gonna happen when I get out of here?
The most dangerous men statement is oddly accurate. Manson was said to be influential to some until his death in 2017. In fact, the 1980s saw Manson worshippers holding a vigil outside the prison, chanting for the cult leader's release.
Defiant, unrepentant, even from prison, Charles Manson threatens to reach a new generation.
Had he been released or never caught, would he have been as dangerous as he imagined? Leave something witchy. In another highly unsettling interview, Manson spoke with Diane Sawyer in 1994. It was said he had told the Manson family women to, quote, "leave something witchy at the famous crime scene," which he confirmed to be true in the interview.
Did you tell the women to do their witchy things?
I said, if you're gonna do something, leave something witchy. Just like I would tell you.
His meaning was to let people know you were there with some sort of symbol. The crime scenes were adorned with writings in blood, including, quote, "death to pigs" and a misspelled, quote, "Helter, Skelter." Though Manson claimed not to be involved in the murders, his figurative fingerprints are all over the crime scene. The symbols left behind, the something witchy, are Manson's words.
If you're gonna do something, do it well. And leave something witchy. Leave a sign to let the world know that you were there.
Killing someone is like... Manson was fond of likening murder to mundane, everyday things. That definitely added to his terrifying demeanor.
Our conversation lasted an hour and a half, during which Manson was sometimes lucid, sometimes incoherent, and frequently manipulative.
During a particularly aggressive NBC interview with Heidi Schulman in 1987, Manson revealed how he would feel about murdering someone, even finding a weapon in his immediate surroundings.
If I wanted to kill somebody, I'd take this book and beat you to death with it, and I wouldn't feel a thing. It'd be just like walking to the drugstore.
Honestly, is there anything more mundane than walking to the drugstore? Manson's nonchalance towards the subject is really off-putting. Props to the interviewer for remaining calm in the face of Manson's threats and hypothetical murder plans. We're not sure we would have been so reserved. Charles Manson is an illusion. The 1980 KCRA interview with Mike Boyd seems a little different when compared to the others on this list. Manson seems more sedate, almost lightheaded.
I know how to be reborn and start all over. I start all over. I don't start all over with the same old, same old.
That doesn't help with the discomfort one feels when looking into his eyes. At this point in time, Manson claimed to be, quote, born again. A Manson book was being worked on by Newell Emmons, and the interviewer was addressing Manson's involvement and feelings towards it. This is when Manson mentioned that the public's perception of him was an illusion.
And then I think that he wants everyone to know that I'm not really the guy that you think I am, but the guy that you made me.
Manson often referred to his public image and how wrong it was. He never, however, really proved it inaccurate. Manson has no remorse. Charles Manson was allegedly responsible for 9 murders and potentially up to 24. The thing is, he wasn't physically responsible for the 9, according to witness accounts. Regardless, one would expect some semblance of remorse, as is typically human.
He never heard you express remorse. Have you never felt it?
Remorse for what? You people have done everything in the world to me. Doesn't that give me equal right?
Manson, unsurprisingly, had none, and proudly said so. In his 1987 interview, when asked about remorse for his crimes, Manson responded with, quote, "What crimes?" Throughout the trial and subsequent interviews, Manson maintained he hadn't killed anyone. However, a closer look at the same interview reveals Manson stating he, quote, "should have killed more."
Maybe I should have killed 400 or 500 people, then I would have felt better. Then when I felt like I really offered society something.
The use of the words "should have" kind of implies he was involved in the initial 9 deaths, right? Manson claims he invented God. It's an age-old question humankind has pondered for centuries. If God created everything, who created God? Well, apparently we have the head of the Manson family to thank for that.
Oh, God, I guess you're my best friend, being I invented you.
During this especially uncomfortable interview, Charles Manson cites God as his best friend, having created him. While that's already a pretty wild thing to say, what ensues will raise your eyebrows to a whole new level. Upon being asked if he himself is Jesus Christ, Manson explains that there are actually many Jesuses all over the world.
Are you Jesus Christ?
What's Jesus? There's all kinds of Jesuses. There's a black Jesus down in Florida. He's having a good time. There's a Mexican Jesus in Mexico. I mean, there's all kinds of there's a Jewish Jesus. I mean, Jesus, you know, there's all kinds of Jesus coming back everywhere.
Okay, it is believed by some that God appears in many different forms, but Manson's assessment probably isn't what most people have in mind. Manson never killed anyone. Charles Manson was convicted of first-degree murder, but he did not directly kill even one of the victims for whom he went to jail. Rather, he ordered members of his quote-unquote family to carry out the Tate LaBianca murders. So when Manson told Heidi Schulman in 1987 that he, quote, never killed anyone, there's some accuracy to his words.
What do you want to call me a murderer for? I've never killed anyone. I don't need to kill anyone.
However, Manson's follow-up statement makes about as much sense as Helter Skelter. Is Manson implying that he can kill people using his own mind, or that he can get into other people's heads and influence them to commit murder?
I think it. I have it here.
Manson is so smart, he's dumb. Believe it or not, Manson wanted to be a rock musician and has released various albums since he rose to infamy in the early 70s. In 2003, 13 of his recordings from 1967 were finally released on an album entitled All the Way Alive. The whole CD is littered with strange comments, but a standout moment has got to be when Manson makes this oxymoronic statement.
I was so smart when I was a kid that I learned that I was dumb fast.
Socrates made a similar proclamation when he coined the phrase, quote, that I know nothing. Unlike Socrates, though, Manson probably won't go down as one of the great philosophers in most people's books. Manson is nobody. While Manson has been in the public eye for over 50 years, he's still a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. In this interview, a reporter tries to get to the center of this notorious figure, asking Manson to sum himself up in a sentence.
People look at you today, 20 years later, and they still have no idea what you're about. Tell me in a sentence who you are.
Following a series of bizarre facial expressions, the snickering Manson replies with one word, nobody. An awkward pause ensues, after which Manson proceeds to describe himself in a variety of ways.
I'm a bum, a hobo. I'm a boxcar and a jug of wine. And a straight razor if you get too close to me.
Most disturbing of all, Manson states that if you get too close to him, he's, quote, a straight razor. We didn't think it was possible, but Manson's an even bigger question mark now. Manson thinks everybody's crazy. In 1994, ABC News aired a haunting jailhouse interview journalist Diane Sawyer conducted with Manson. Never one to shy away from blunt questions, Sawyer inevitably asks her subject,
Is Charlie Manson crazy?
Manson doesn't deny that he's got issues, but as far as he's concerned, this makes no difference in today's world. To a certain extent, perhaps everyone is indeed at least a little crazy in this wonderland we call Earth.
Sure, he's crazy as mad as a hatter. What difference does it make? You know, a long time ago, being crazy meant something. Nowadays, everybody's crazy.
If you sat down and had a tea party with Manson, though, it's safe to say that most of us would feel like Alice in the Mad Hatter's presence. Manson speaks gibberish. By now, you've more than likely noticed that most of the things Charles Manson says are difficult to analyze. However, this statement is so out there that it could be mistaken for an alien speaking another language. In the aforementioned interview with Heidi Schulman, Manson turns the tables and starts asking the questions.
Do you feel blame Are you mad?
We have no idea what Manson meant by that last question, but the gibberish that follows is even more incomprehensible. Did Manson lose his train of thought? Is he mocking the reporter? What just happened here? Manson says his children are coming. Heidi Schulman's interview with Manson was laced with unhinged ramblings, but their meeting reached the pinnacle of creepy towards the end.
Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left.
Once again, the cult leader suggests that he didn't kill anyone. If he started murdering people, however, Manson swears we'd all be in trouble. As if that's not eerie enough, Manson also states that his children are coming, like he's setting up the sequel to a horror picture.
My children are coming. I told you 20 years ago. I told the judge, can't you see what you're doing here? He didn't care. Nobody cared.
What makes these threats especially ironic is that Manson essentially claimed in the same interview that he wouldn't kill somebody if given the opportunity. Then again, Mr. Manson is anything but consistent. Manson explains Helter Skelter. Manson sparked the 1969 killing spree through Helter Skelter, a term he derived from a popular Beatles song.
And then he would spark it with these murders.
That he would spark it, and that these murders, well, the word Helter Skelter was actually written at one of the homes.
Manson told his followers that Helter Skelter referred to a looming apocalyptic race war between white people and black people that the Tate LaBianca murders could help instigate. He suggested that during this race war, his family would hide underground to emerge only after black people had claimed victory. The family would then seize control from them to run the world.
And when the race war was over, everything would be fine for him and his family to come back in, essentially, and take over.
Of course, Manson contradicted this at his trial, saying, quote, "Helter Skelter is confusion. Confusion is coming down around you fast. If you can't see the confusion coming down around you fast, you can call it what you wish." Charles Manson insults Ted Bundy. Charles Manson and Ted Bundy might be among the most infamous criminals in American history, but that doesn't mean they would have been two peas in a pod.
What does one infamous convicted killer think of another? That's what we wondered. And that's why when I interviewed Charles Manson last week, I asked him what he thinks about Ted Bundy.
In this interview, Manson is asked for his opinion on Bundy, who had been executed in 1989. In response, Manson basically calls the serial killer a bunch of names. He also challenges Bundy's masculinity.
Bundy's out there trying to prove something to his own manhood. That's got nothing to do with me. I don't roll around with people like that. I stand with people that can stand with themselves.
Manson doesn't see eye to eye with Bundy's views on pornography either. As troubling as Manson's comments are, it's also darkly humorous to hear him basically turn into a troll with a severe potty mouth. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Manson sees all the evil inside. Throughout this list, each entry has offered a glimpse into Charles Manson's twisted mind.
What do you see when you look inside yourself?
Inside myself, I see everything.
In arguably his most unsettling moment ever captured on film, Manson looks inside himself and expresses what he sees. The good, bad, the evil. As for how much evil is in there, Manson claims it's all relative.
How much evil is there?
As much as you see.
What do you see?
All of it.
Following an unnerving cackle, Manson goes on to describe his mind even further. And as for his jail cell, it's not as limiting to him as you would think. However you interpret these words, chances are you will be left chilled to the core. Which quote makes you the most uncomfortable? Let us know in the comments.
Are you ever in contact with your mother, your biological mother?
I am my mother.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.